When the earth decides to open up and swallow a life, it rarely gives you the courtesy of a warning. The ground looks entirely solid, right up until the exact second it isn't. On April 6, 2006, high up on Mammoth Mountain in California, it was technically spring, but at 10,000 feet above sea level, it was still deep winter, with snow lying several feet thick in every direction. 4 members of the ski patrol were out working in the cold. Among them was 58-year-old Walter Rosenthal. He was a scientist, a snow hydrology researcher for the University of California, who had spent his entire adult life studying how snow behaves. He understood this environment better than almost anyone alive. The job that morning was incredibly routine. The heavy winter snows had nearly buried a 4-foot-tall safety fence, and the patrol was simply there to dig it out and raise it back up above the powder. It was an ordinary chore. But experience can easily blind you to the fact that you are standing on top of geological forces that do not care about your resume. 8 months later and 2,000 miles away in the woods of East Tennessee, a completely different group of people was heading down into a vertical pit called Turtle Graveyard Cave. 7 young adults, including 21-year-old Dustin Anderson and his twin brother, were out looking for an adventure. They had discovered caving exactly 2 months earlier. They had absolutely zero formal training and brought none of the specialized harnesses or ascending gear required for a vertical drop. Their entire system was a single rope tied to a tree. For hours, they climbed down and explored the deep dark of the pit, thoroughly convinced they were in total control. Then, the luck ran out. As Dustin was hauling himself back up the rope hand over hand, just a few feet away from the surface, he lost his footing. His grip failed, and he fell backward into the blackness. Whether you're an expert on a sunny alpine peak or an amateur at the bottom of a pitch-black cave, when the environment violently turns on you, you are left with only a fraction of a second to react. Back on Mammoth Mountain, the patrollers were completely unaware of what lay beneath their boots. Mammoth is an active volcano. Deep underground, magma still exhales gases through cracks in the earth, poisoning the soil and killing stands of trees from their roots up. This animation shows how that exhaled gas behaves on the surface. Because carbon dioxide is heavier than the air we breathe, it doesn't drift away on the wind. It sinks. It flows down the slope like water, pooling into hollows and ditches, quietly displacing all the oxygen to form a completely invisible lake. All winter long, the heat from one of these vents had been rising, quietly melting the snowpack from the bottom up. The surface looked totally flat and solid to the patrol. A hidden 21-foot shaft had formed underneath them, slowly brimming to the top with lethal carbon dioxide. Without a sound, the fragile snow crust gave way. 2 of the patrollers instantly dropped 21 feet down into the dark enclosed shaft, plunging straight into the toxic gas. The other 2 men watched their friends vanish into the earth. Doing exactly what every human instinct screams at you to do, they ran to the edge of the hole to help. The snow collapsed again, and a 3rd man fell in. Only 1 patroller was left standing on the surface. He found a rope, tied it around his body, and deliberately lowered himself down into the invisible gas to save his team. Within moments of descending, the carbon dioxide overcame him, and he lost consciousness on the line. The deepest, most decent impulse we have, to rush to a fallen friend, is exactly what this invisible hazard weaponized to pull an entire highly trained patrol into the earth. Inside Turtle Graveyard Cave, the physics were much simpler, but just as brutal. A 45-foot free fall in an open shaft is a death sentence, especially with no mechanical ascender clamped to the rope to catch you. Dustin plummeted out of the darkness, accelerating straight toward a small rock ledge below, where the rest of the group was standing, including his twin brother. Inside the sliver of a second it takes for a body to drop 45 feet, there is no time to think or calculate risk. Dustin's brother saw the other half of himself falling out of the black, and his primal instinct took over. He reached out to catch him. This diagram illustrates the sheer kinetic energy at play. A human body falling 45 feet accumulates immense downward velocity. It is mathematically impossible for a stationary person on a narrow ledge to absorb that much force with their bare arms. The massive impact immediately tangled the brothers together, pulling them both right off the ledge. But that initial collision transferred a huge amount of momentum. It broke one fatal 75-foot plummet into two shorter falls, absorbing enough of the deadly speed as they tumbled another 30 feet to the cave floor. The exact same reckless, split-second instinct to save a loved one, the impulse that doomed the ski patrol in California, physically absorbed the fatal energy in Tennessee and saved a young man's life. Back on Mammoth Mountain, rescue teams arrived to pull the victims out of the gas. The fourth patroller, the one who had lowered himself in, was hauled back up to the clean air and revived. He survived for one reason alone. He had tied that physical rope around himself before descending. He was the only survivor. The mountain claimed the lives of his 3 colleagues, wiping out a team of top-tier professionals in a matter of minutes. In Tennessee, it took a massive response from specialized vertical rescue teams to descend into the cave, package Destin into a wire litter, and haul the battered brothers back to the surface to be flown to a hospital. Both of them lived. The wild is completely indifferent to who you are. Gravity pulling you to the floor of a cave and toxic gas pooling under the snow are absolute, uncaring laws of physics. They do not discriminate between seasoned scientists and amateur teenagers. When nature offers zero warning, survival is rarely determined by the environment itself. The line between absolute tragedy and an improbable miracle is ultimately drawn in a fraction of a second, decided by our chaotic, unthinking instinct to reach into the dark and pull each other back.